G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/legal advice video. Now if you love me like I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like Crocodile Dundee. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments. Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody good legal advice. Now our first post is by user Kerlaub, titled, Utah, sheep farmer trying to have therapy dog put down. Other civil matters. So I work at a residential treatment facility for troubled youth. This morning, a couple knocked on the door, I answered it, and it was a man and a woman accusing our dog of killing one of their sheep. Our dog is always on site for therapeutic reasons, and when it is outside, it is tied to a stake. He is 10 years old with no violent history. They said the old guy next door saw our dog attacking the sheep. I denied everything, and they said, okay, we'll just call the cops. We'll be back. Just now, someone from the city showed up and said that he could take the dog, but he didn't want it to come to that. But there were multiple witnesses saying they saw the dog attacking the sheep. I asked if this was the only boxer in the county. He said in this area it was. I asked if he obtained this information from usdogcensus.gov. He did not laugh. At this point, I was getting heated, so I referred to him to my co-worker, who is the dog's actual owner, and the home supervisor's wife. The man told her that if we flat out deny it was our dog, then the witnesses will sign a paper and dispatch will come and take him to be put down. She said that she couldn't confirm or deny, but she does know that he was inside all day today. So he left saying maybe we could work it out with the sheep owners and he would go talk to them. We have not seen the sheep or even know how many were killed. They don't seem to have any proof that it was this dog, only at least one person saw a boxer. Also, is there any potential liability with taking the dog from the home to the facility, claiming he ran away, and then bringing him back claiming it to be a different dog? Do not let that dog outside and do not turn it over to the police unless they have a signed warrant. If your area has an attorney, I would call them immediately. I would also get any co-workers and patients that can testify the dog was at the facility all day and have others write statements to her peaceful nature. If some dude wants to kill a supposedly innocent dog for his dead sheep, make him work for it. Throwing up money blocks is the easiest way to get most people to lay off. The farmer is probably looking for someone to pay for his dead sheep. The problem with paying is that he may come back every month for them to pay for another supposed dead sheep. Do you have any security cameras? If you do, then see if you can prove the dog was either inside or didn't leave the property. The other thing to do would be get a lawyer, ask to see the sheep allegedly killed by the dog, and ask to speak to the so-called witnesses. The best thing that would happen is the witnesses look at the dog and says, "That's not a boxer." I had this happen in my neighborhood. Animal control was not amused with the people that were trying to get the dog put down. Unfortunately, we do not have security cameras. Odd, I know. It's the only program I've ever seen without them, and the owners likes it that way. The dog's owner, my direct boss, is going to see the sheep now. I'll let him know he should talk to witnesses too. Good call. Thank you. I worked in residential treatment for 7 years. The owner is being stupid. Cameras protect everyone. Owners, staff, residents, visitors. Not having them in 2019-2020 is almost willful ignorance at best. I absolutely agree. I know you do. I remember when I worked there. It was simultaneously the best and worst job I've ever had. The big picture was fulfilling, but day-to-day would just grind you down. Very true. I'm in my 7th year too, though I've only been at this particular program for 2. I think the only thing that keeps me doing this is the fulfilling the big picture. It takes a hell of a toll though. And now, update Utah. Sheep farmer trying to have therapy dog put down. So a few weeks ago I posted this. Okay, a few weeks went by and we didn't hear from the sheep owner again. My boss, the actual owner of the dog, was happy to just let it go. But he was worried that this time was passing because they were preparing some sort of legal action, so he did finally get in touch with them. A few weeks ago, they told us they had checked out the sheep and it was not going to make it. Now they tell us they cannot produce a sheep. Okay, it's been a few weeks, the remains are probably disposed of by now. A few weeks ago they said they had taken pictures of the damage, now they tell us they cannot produce the pics. A few weeks ago they tell us they have an eyewitness, later changed to multiple eyewitnesses. Now we find out it was one guy who reported it from work. He does not work within view of their field. He works at a city dump right next door to our facility and who has a history of verbally abusing our residents, telling them they should be penned in like animals, they're rapists, homos, etc. Anyways, we started pushing the issue and we find out that this guy who works next door to us is in a bad mood one day and just decides he hates our kids more than normal. Maybe he decides they don't deserve a dog. I don't know. At any rate, he calls up a nearby sheep owner and tells them he saw our dog kill a sheep. The couple who own the sheep are so worked up that they don't even go to their field to check it out. They come straight over here and start mouthing off. I tell them our dog never leaves the facility and it can't be our dog. They say they'll be back with police and leave. They then go to their field and find out there is no dead sheep. Instead of owning up to their error, they double down and call the city, perhaps keeping up the act to save face. Police told them they don't have sufficient evidence, so they called animal control. Animal control comes and I tell them they can't prove it was this dog. This dog never leaves the facility. It's always either locked inside or staked outside. The city leaves and we never hear from the couple again, up until we get in touch with them and piece all this together. Our dog is fine and sleeping on a couch right now. And I, for one, am glad that this story had a good ending. Alright, and our next post is by user Herbie Castle, titled, I left some volatile gummy bears on the desk, now my coworker wants to sue me. This is in Michigan. I am originally from Germany and very unsure how the laws work in the United States, so bear with me. Get it, 'cause gummy bears? Last year, I received a job offer to work as an assistant professor in the German language department at a local university in Michigan. I recently finished my PhD and was really excited to fill a research position and possible postdoc position in the specific field that I applied to. Most of my time I give classes in German literature, but additionally, the university would like me to help students with writer's block, so I joined an interdisciplinary workshop. There are at least 4 people connected to this workshop, and we get along fine most of the time. Sadly, there is one elderly woman who made me out as a rival one day. I do not know what provoked her, but there is something about me that makes her mad. Cue the incident. I had an appointment with a student, gave him some tips and instructions, and left my bowl with gummy bears on her desk. Mind you, these gummy bears are sugar-free and volatile. If you eat more than a handful, you are in serious fart troubles, and you will occupy the toilet bowl for the rest of your day. But my coworker ate the whole bowl. First, she excused herself from any commitments, and then she called in sick. The next day she confronted me and blamed me for the whole ordeal, that I deliberately placed those gummy bears and it was all a ploy to humiliate her. According to her, she's already informed HR and her lawyer, and that I will be kicked out of the country in no time. The only thing I can blame myself on is that me and my colleagues giggled at her bowel distress signals. Picture of the culprits. Barren Garden? What is this? What even is volatile? I don't understand. What's going on here? Kinda long comment, but I think this is the only one that I need to, talk about. Wise old Silverback. I'm an attorney, but not your attorney. Disclaimer. So here's my thoughts in broad strokes. 1. You are not alright. This is serious. For now it sounds like HR only has her side of the story. It is very important that you give your side both in writing and face-to-face with HR right away. Psychologically, people tend to believe the first facts they hear about a subject, and so far as I can tell from your narrative, HR has not heard yours. Get your side in ASAP. Don't wait or be passive thinking. HR will immediately dismiss her story out of hand. 2. Create a record. Gather all emails, notes, papers, voice messages, etc., and preserve them. Sit down and write up your narrative, your encounters with her, and keep notes going forward. 3. Never meet or speak to her without a third person who is on your side present. Always leave the door open on these occasions. 4. File a complaint against her for harassment with HR. She has defamed you, and this will be a cloud on your professional reputation. Do this ASAP. Don't wait until your record is complete. Do it today and tell HR that you will gather your information and bring it to them later. 5. Don't rely on HR to be fair or effective. They might be great or they might be terrible. Find out who else can help you if HR takes her side. 6. Get her out of your group. Talk to your department head about this. 7. Make friends with the law professors. Defamation is a tort, so look for a torts professor. And last, 8. Meet with a private lawyer in case you need one. Additional note, as a teacher and instructor, when you meet with a student, don't call it a date. That connotates a romantic rendezvous. Romantic relationships between teachers and students is frowned upon in the US. Good luck. Thank you, I've already made an appointment with HR for Monday, and I corrected the inappropriate word usage to a better term. Not everyone knows that artificial sweeteners can cause that kind of digestive issue. You may want to print off an explanation from a reputable website to show HR. They may start with the assumption that you did something to the gummy bears. It should be fairly easy to explain, but you may want to show them some evidence so they don't have to just take your word for it. Alright, and now, minor update on these pesky volatile gummy bears. So we are still in Michigan. I had a fruitful conversation with HR yesterday. My coworker and I had separate interviews yesterday, no blaming, just telling what happened and how our workplace could be improved on in the future. I make it quick. Her side of the story looks like this. Herbie Castle deliberately placed sweets laced with laxatives in the commonly shared office space to make me and other people sick. My side? I forgot my bowl with gummy bears, which I gladly and generously share with everybody in my department, not assuming that anybody would eat the whole bowl of sugar-free gummy bears. That would be an argumento ad common senso, I assume, in legal terms. I even brought an original German gummy bears packet with me to prove that I didn't mean any harm. True story though, my pants had been, were, and have been shat during the last couple of days, and that without any laxative gummy bears. I hope these tenses fit. Hard to believe, but we talked during lunch yesterday, and made up. She is a nice lady, in fact, but had issues with food allergies in the past. And I would love to just close this story with a, we reconciled and everything was fine. But there was another major bit of a wow moment in the room when I learned that both hostile coworker and me have already been put under scrutiny, HR words, by another assistant professor who had also joined in our workshop project. Is this fudging Game of Thrones? I don't know what's going on at the end of this story here. I mean, I'm confused and the story is finished, but I'm glad that they made up. That's amazing. Alright, now our next post is by Live Lift Love. Haha, Jim. I haven't seen or heard from my biological father in 21 years, and I received a phone call saying that they need the next of kin to make decisions. Hi everyone. So just a little bit of a background. I'm turning 27 this year, and my biological father has been out of the picture since I was 6. If the man was to stand in front of me right now, I wouldn't even recognize him. I have very vague memories of him. The last that I've heard of him was that he got remarried to someone in Vietnam and had children with her. However, he is residing in the US and have not sponsored her over here, so she's still in Vietnam. So yesterday, I received a phone call from my biological father's cousin. In our culture, I address her as my auntie. Her and her husband are the only people that I know of and keep in touch with on my biological father's side of the family. I'm not aware of any other relatives on his side, or even if I know my parents' grandparents. She called to tell me that my biological father was in the hospital about 2 to 3 hours driving away from me, which I didn't even know he was in the US. His housemate had called 911 because he collapsed due to cardiac arrest, and keeps having seizures. I thought she was calling me to tell me that he was in the hospital and was going to try to coerce me to visit, but it was a lot more than what I imagined. She said that the physician needed the next of kin to make a decision on what to do with his medical concerns. When do they stop resuscitating if needed, and when to pull the plug? I didn't know what to say. This man is a complete stranger to me. It's like me going into some hospital to the ICU, picking some random person and say, I want to pull their plug. This man is someone else's husband and father, but he is not my father. I feel like I can't take this responsibility on myself. My aunt passed on the physician's phone number to me, and I called her for more information. She said that he is currently on a ventilator and that they have to keep pushing meds to prevent the seizures. His lungs are failing, and although his brain functions and vitals are stable for now, the constant seizures will continue to affect his brain. I have no personal feelings for this man. I told the physician that if I had to make a decision, it would be based on the diagnosis, prognosis, treatment/cure, quality of life if he survives. This is getting really long. This is the gist for the most part. My questions that I have are, do I have to be the one to make the decision? Would I be responsible for his medical debt? Seriously, what the actual hell? What would you do? Okay. 1. You do not have to make the decision. Simply tell them you aren't interested if you don't want to. 2. No. His estate will take care of it. If he passes and his estate is insufficient for the medical debts, that's it. 3. I would have nothing to do with the situation. If I haven't seen this man in so long, politely decline. Hockey Pup says, if he's actually married, his wife is next of kin, even if she's not in the country at this time. Tell the physicians to contact his out-of-country wife to deal with this, and to leave you alone because you don't want the responsibility and you aren't really closest next of kin anyway. And Aeon Flux says, you are not responsible for making decisions for him if you don't want to be. However, the doctor has a responsibility to ask the next of kin, so it may be easier for the doctor if you are willing to sign a simple document stating that you do not want to be involved. That way the doctor can turn to the next of kin without it looking like they bypassed you. You are not responsible for your parents' debts. The only way you could be responsible is if you co-signed on a loan or something. I don't really know what I would do in your position. Do whatever the right thing is for you. You don't have any responsibility to a parent who made a choice not to be in your life. And now, an update to that last post. So I wanted to thank everyone who commented and replied on the previous post, as it really helped me feel better about the decision to relinquish my rights as his power of attorney. On Sunday, my aunt had called me to let me know when she visited him and asked if he wanted to see his children, and he tried to open his eyes and blinked several times, so she insinuated that that was a yes. To be honest, I only agreed to go because I knew I had to do this for myself, so that I wouldn't live with the possibility of regret that I did or did not see him in his dying days, even though I know I don't owe him anything. It was also an 1.5-hour drive from where I currently live in Louisiana. So when I get to go see my dad, the doctor wanted to speak with me, my aunt, and uncle first about what to do and who's going to have the power of attorney. I told them I wanted to withdraw my responsibility, and then the doctor said that I can give it to someone else. I gave my auntie and uncle that option, and they said they were in the same boat as I was and didn't know what to do either. If none of us decides to hold that responsibility, the decision will ultimately go to the state, and it'll be up to them with the next steps of care. I also asked if there would be a financial burden to whoever became his power of attorney. The doctor said she wasn't sure, but she believes that he has Medicare/Medicaid, but anything not covered by them would be the responsibility of the power of attorney. So I finally go in to see him with my aunt and uncle, and he just seems kind of unresponsive. He has very little brain function, and is pretty much the equivalent of a person who has gone through several strokes. My aunt was trying to wake him up to open his eyes, and he slightly fluttered his eyelids. They told me to talk to him, so I asked them if I could have some privacy because I didn't really know what to say. I kinda just stood there for a second after they left and just talked about myself. I feel like it was an interview or something. I was just like, hey dad, it's live, lift, love. And he turns his head towards me and opens his eyes a little bigger, but I'm not sure what brain functions is still working. Doctor didn't have an MRI on hand, so they weren't sure what brain functions weren't hypoxic. And I just started talking about myself. I told him I'm turning 27 this year. I've gone to college, have 2 degrees, don't have any kids, have a side business, and am currently living in Louisiana. Then I said something along the lines of, I know it's been 21 years since you've seen or heard from me. And then I started choking up, because I knew what I wanted to say the next, but I had a difficult time saying it. A part of me just wanted to get super angry and say, I turned out okay without you, or maybe because you left I became who I am. You had nothing to do with raising me and the successes I have achieved to this day. Ultimately, I said I forgave him and that I hope he finds peace and happiness in the next life, or whatever it is that he believes in. I saw tears come out of his eyes, so I'm not sure if he heard me and was reacting to it, or just because he has all these tubes in and out of him and he was having some sort of gag reflex. It was just kind of hard to recognize him because of the majority of his face had something covering it with the ventilating and feeding tubes. I still felt like I was talking to a stranger, but I just hope he knew I was there and that it made him feel better. I don't feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulder or like a sigh of relief. I'm actually pretty okay with whatever happened, and I know I won't have any regrets in that part of my life. Apparently, he has a group of friends that was also there, and they all looked at me like, oh my god, she looks just like the mum. I got annoyed after we visited, and we all sat together in the waiting room, talking and trying to find out more information. And they just kept telling me I'm his child, I need to do this, and that to force my brother to come see him. I just didn't say anything because I didn't want to be disrespectful. In my head, I really wanted to scream screw you and screw your opinions, because you guys got to know him more than I ever had, and it's not anyone else's fault but his that he chose not to be a part of my life. So don't you dare tell me what I should and should not do. But we found out that they got in touch with the wife in Vietnam, and she's trying to come over here to visit, and she has been given the power of attorney. So he's currently on full code until they can get her a visa/sponsorship over here, which he'll probably pass before that can even happen. Thanks everyone for reading. I know this update is a little long, but I thought it might have been a courteous to those who have taken their time to offer their advice. And our last post is by user Rolling Expat, titled, California, neighbor constantly blocking my wheelchair access ramp. Hello, I've been advised by a friend to come to this forum and ask about potential ways to resolve my issue. So a couple of months ago, I moved into a new house in California. It was specifically designed to accommodate someone who uses a wheelchair, and I absolutely love it. Street access is achieved via a wheelchair ramp located between my and my neighbor's houses. The ramp is necessary, it goes over the gutter, because of a very peculiar gutter and curb combination that's very wheelchair unfriendly, and potentially very dangerous for me to try and conquer by myself. My problem is with my neighbors constantly blocking the wheelchair ramp with their cars. They are a large family that owns 5 cars, and they can only fit 2 of them in their driveway, so the rest stays in the street, which is legal in the area. So far, I've found the ramp blocked at least a dozen times. I've asked them on multiple occasions not to put their cars in front of the ramp, and they've been very apologetic every time, but they also keep doing it. It's especially aggravating when there's nobody home who can move an offending car for me, which means I'm stuck at my house. I find it degrading to be forced to go door to door to try and find someone who will help me down. On 2 occasions, I've also had to call for help, because I was blocked from getting into my house. Is there any way I can ensure that this will never happen again? I would rather avoid conflict with the neighbors, but I feel like they're really trying my patience on this issue. Any advice is appreciated. Contact the city, they can mark out a no parking spot, and then you can have parking enforcement tow if they continue to park there. Thank you, I'll try that. Also, they may be able to mark it as an HP spot. Contacting the landlord, city, and maybe law enforcement in a written, reasonably escalating manner starts accumulating valuable documentation. Photos with time and date stamps should be taken as well. If you were my neighbor, I'd make sure this wasn't an issue, even if I didn't like you for whatever reason. Good luck. I'm afraid contacting the landlord won't be of much help because of a slightly complicated ownership situation. I'm heavily considering buying this house and would have committed by now if it wasn't for this unfortunate issue with the neighbors. I'll definitely try asking the city to paint a no parking zone around the ramp exit. I'd rather avoid involving the police, but I don't think they're giving me much choice. I completely understand that. I'd avoid law enforcement involvement myself as well, and contact them as a last resort. If you own the place, then there are more avenues you could pursue. Honestly, short of that, talk to your neighbors some more and be friendly about it. I don't know your specific situation there, but I hope things get better. And now, update California. Neighbor constantly blocking my wheelchair access ramp. Hello. The person who directed me to this legal help forum mentioned that it's customary to give updates once significant process is made in a case. So since I'm currently sitting in a car, still a couple hundred miles away from home, this is a good time as any to tell you guys what's been going on. Following your advice, I contacted the authorities to have the area around the ramp marked out as a no parking spot. They weren't able to help me since the street is owned by my neighborhood's homeowners association. Now, my house is one of the few in the area that is not part of that organization, but I decided to contact them anyway. The president turned out to be a wonderful lady who was of immense help to me. She helped resolve the parking situation by designating the area around the ramp as a no parking spot. I felt bad about inconveniencing my neighbors, but the homeowner association agreed to my idea of extending the street parking zone by a few yards on the other side of my neighbor's house. That way they still have somewhere to park their fifth car. She did all of that as a gesture of goodwill without me being a member of their organization, which made me fall in love with the neighborhood even more. Also, I'm really glad that I didn't have to go involve the police. Since my accessibility issue has been resolved, I've decided to pull the trigger and buy the house I live in. I'm currently in the process of finalizing the purchase, which is taking slightly longer than usual due to a complex ownership situation. Still, at this point, my estate agent is assuring me that there should be no more roadblocks, which makes me really happy. Once I'm the owner of the house, I'm planning to join the homeowner association as well. I've also been asked to become their accessibility consultant to help make sure all of their future projects are wheelchair friendly, which is a huge honor to me and makes me confident that this is the right place for me. On top of all of that, I've reached an agreement with a homeowners association and 2 other couples to build a second ramp a little further down the street and split the cost between us. Every party, including the homeowner association, will be covering quarter of the price, and we have a promise that this time a no parking spot will be marked out immediately. The project is set to begin once the purchase of my house is finalized. Thanks once again for all the help. What started out as a nuisance has become a fantastic adventure that reassured me that I've found a place I can truly call home. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that one today. Tell me what you thought about all these stories in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts, opinions, problems, positivities, whatever's going on. This has been Markee. I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you've been up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!